Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk today about fake news. There is a lot of talk and a lot of people throwing around that term. And what does it mean, and how do we combat it? The term fake news is generally any news that is deemed unreliable. And so when I'm teaching my students to look at different sources, I want them to check their sources and to verify that these are reliable. So, how do we do that? I got this information from a website, which I will link below. And this is what they suggest. And so I'm just going to kind of elaborate on that. So, the first thing is to consider the source. When I see news, the first thing I do is check to where that news came from. Is it from a reliable news source, or is it from, purpledonkeys.com or whatever? If it's from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Bloomberg, Breitbart, then I'm also going to kind of, in my head, put that news into a category. Are we looking at something that's considered skewed left or something that's considered skewed right? And that also is going to play into the reliability, credibility of that news source. Because remember, these news media today, it is a business, and they are there to make money, and they have advertisers. And in order to stay in business, they need to keep advertisers happy. And how they do that is their advertisers are usually skewed one way or another as well. So if an advertiser is more of a conservative product, then they are going to be advertising on Breitbart or a Fox. They want those news sources to cater to that audience. So that's also going to play into how that news is and the source of that news. The second thing is to read beyond the headline. So we live in a world of clickbait and attention grabbing. If you look back, even when news of 100 years ago, newspapers wanted to pull you in. It's a hook. We talk about it in English class, that first sentence. Well, how they're going to do that now is through a headline. And so the headline may be sensationalized, and we as consumers need to be able to read beyond that headline. What is that headline saying? Is that 100% accurate? Is it a piece taken out of context? Because that happens a lot as well. I have seen the exact same thing, the exact same news story. CNN will have it one way, skewed left. Fox will have it another way, skewed right. And so then you're looking at it and you're like, interesting. Like, I'm a giant nerd. I think this is super interesting. And so I often go to both. And so you want to read beyond that headline. You want to look beyond that clickbait. You also want to check if the author is credible. So anybody can write anything. I mean, here I am, some nobody sitting in my office here in, California, and I could say anything I want. And if I'm convincing enough, or if I throw out some of my my credits, you may go, wow, I'm going to take what she says as gospel. Please don't. Please don't take what I say as gospel. Please check all the sources. And if you disagree, that's totally okay. I mean, that's kind of the point. But anyway, I digress. You want to check and see if that author is credible. Like, who is this person, and what are their credits? Like, what else have they done? What do they normally do? Is this just somebody sitting in their basement, or is this somebody who is a legitimate journalist? Because that's a big deal. Or is this somebody who has some knowledge on the topic? I mean, if you look at my credentials, right? I have a bachelor's in history. I've been a teacher for over a decade. I teach AP Gov. I teach US history. I have a background working knowledge of sources and looking this stuff up. And I've linked where I've gotten my information as well, which is from a credible website. So that's kind of the way that's how you're fact checking this. So you want to check that author. Do they know what they're talking about? I am not going to speak on something that's scientific because I'm not a scientist. I don't even teach science. And you are definitely not going to hear me say anything about mathematics. You want to check the supporting sources. What links or evidence do they have? If this is an opinion piece, as this is, then that's different. I'm giving my opinion, like, hey, this is how I check out fake news. This is where I got it from. Go check it out. Or, hey, I like the color purple. It's pretty awesome. It's the best color in the world. That's an opinion. So you want to make sure that if it's an opinion piece, it's stated as such. And if it is a factual piece, where are they getting this information from? Who are their sources? What links do they have? What other evidence do they have? I In education, we talk about not citing Wikipedia, but even Wikipedia links their sources and links other reliable information that you can use. So you want to check out those supporting sources. You want to check the date. I cannot tell you how many times on social media that something will come around and it is the same thing that we saw 4 years ago when the last whatever happened, and they're dragging it out again and they're slapping a new date on it and calling it new. So check the date. Is this something that's current or is this something that's old? And you can easily check that on Google. If you go to Google, there's, I want to say it's tools, but you can click on it and it gives you a timeline, and you can actually filter how soon these sources are. So I can say, hey, just show me stuff from the last week, or just show me things from the last year. You can pull that up. So cross-check that. If this looks old, check it. It might be old. Don't just say, anybody can Photoshop, like anybody. So you want to check that out. Is it a joke? Is this satire? There are satire websites, so know them. And if you're not sure if it's satire, because in today's world, sometimes reality really feels like it should be satire. I know it's odd. Throw it up there. Google it. I'm a giant fan of Google. I Google a lot of stuff. I'm a champion Googler. And you want to put that up there and it'll tell you, hey, this is The Onion, and The Onion is a satire website or whatever. Check your own bias. You should know where you fall on a political spectrum. Do you fall left? Do you fall right? Are you a moderate? Are you a libertarian? Are you a Republican, Democrat? Are you religious? Are you not religious? Your own bias is going to dictate how you look at different information. I will often, and I guess now we'll use the term, it's very overused, but the term triggered. There are things that definitely make me hot, like immediately, and I read it and I'm like, and I want to like get in there and I want to start arguing. And I stop and I go, oh, wait a minute. Why am I so upset about this? Like, if I comment on this, is anything really going to change? Probably not. Because in my experience, if somebody is dead set one way or another in their politics, literally nothing I say is going to change their opinion. So do I really want to spend the time to try to talk to them about it? Or do I want to just check my own bias and go, you know what? It's going to be super heated because I feel the absolute opposite of this, and so I'm really upset about that. So sometimes in recognizing your own personal bias, it can really help you in differentiating between what's fake news and what's real news. When in doubt, ask experts. If you are reading something that's scientific and you have access to your science teacher, go talk to them. If you're reading something about government and you have access to a history teacher or government teacher, go ask them. Ask the librarian. The librarian is such a wealth of information. The librarian assistant is such a wealth of information. If you don't have access to any actual humans, take it to the internet again. Go look at what experts in the field are saying. With all that's going on right now with the plague, I don't understand it. And so I am defaulting to scientists and defaulting to what they're saying because I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with saying that I'm not an expert in this, or I don't understand this, or I don't know that. And I mean, often in today's society, we're almost afraid to say that. It's like we're afraid to say, hey, I just don't get this. And we shouldn't be. I know that sounds bad. Okay, so I don't really know how to fix my car. I don't really know. I mean, I could change a tire. I probably can change the oil because I've done it a long, long, long time ago. So I probably can do it, but when it comes to it, I really don't know how to fix it. And so when my car breaks, which last year has been too much, I will take it to somebody who knows. I take it to an auto mechanic because they know, and there's no shame in me saying, hey, expert in this field, help explain this to me. And so ask experts if you really don't understand something. And that means asking them physically, asking them through text, asking them through email, or just Googling it to gain the information from an expert in that field that may have already been said. What I tell my students is when you see something on social media or you see something come across your phone as like a, hey, an emergency, or hey, this popped up and this happened, you want to check and see if 2 to 3 other sources are saying the same thing. So like, for example, when Kobe Bryant died, I saw TMZ did it. Now, TMZ, they can go either way. They're not bad. I mean, they have a lot of sources. They pay a lot of money around Hollywood for what they get. But the first thing I did was I checked CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and I think those were the only ones I checked at that time. Sometimes I checked Bloomberg or Breitbart. It depends on what it is. And so I immediately checked. And when they backed it up, I was like, okay, it happened. Because how many times have we seen the same celebrity died, but they really didn't die? Or this celebrity died, and it's like, that guy died 5 years ago, but we're bringing him back up. Social media is notorious for spreading complete poo. So I always tell my students, you want to check and see if that's being reported in other places. Right now with social media, there's a lot of fear. The plague is stirring up a lot of fear. I'm afraid. Lots of people are afraid. And fear makes people irrational. And so you don't want to be irrational. You want to read something and go, holy cow, is that true? Let me check. Here in the Inland Empire, I'm a Czech Press Enterprise. Sometimes they're behind a paywall, so it just depends. But check Press Enterprise, check the local news, check to see what's being said. There's something called anecdotal evidence, and that is personal testimony, okay? And yes, I'm all about primary sources, but is this a primary source based on what's really happening, or is this, hey, my uncle's cousin's friend saw that this happened over there on that corner, and it really didn't happen at all. Sometimes anecdotal evidence is like taking a giant game of telephone, and what happened has morphed into something totally different. America specifically, we really love fear. Our news media, like, they live off of it. If it bleeds, it leads. So we definitely want to check to make sure that anecdotal evidence is actually happening, right? So like right now, there's a lot with the National Guard. Oh, the National Guard is rolling through California. Yeah, they're totally here. The National Guard is called out in times of emergency and crisis, which California has declared. So what is the National Guard doing? Well, they're not rolling the tank down my street right now. I mean, they could. It's fine. They're just not. What they're doing is they're helping pass out food. They're helping keep the peace. They're making sure that nothing bad happens. So when people say like, oh my gosh, the National Guard, it's martial law, it's not. And so that's what's being said, in social media and anecdotal evidence. But the reality of it is, here's why they're here and here's what they're supposed to do. I mean, I don't think we should fear the military when they're called in, because I know a lot of people in the military. There are a lot of former students who went in the military. They're doing a job, and their job is to help protect. So I'm going to look at that evidence coming in, and I'm going to go with it on that way. So that is it. That is all for the day. I hope you enjoyed your lesson on fake news. I enjoyed speaking to myself as I normally do in the classroom. And that is all for me for today. If you like what you see, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. I would love to grow this channel just because I love to share information and I love to talk. Anyone will tell you. So have a great day. Stay safe, stay informed, stay sane, and have a good rest of your day.